Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and you can tell from the title of the puzzle as well as the thumbnail that we're back to the phenomenal series from Blobz, which is all about oil and water and how they don't mix. Now, for a while, I've been going with the idea that the oil is olive oil and we have water, I guess something somewhat pleasant. But today, I guess with the title oily water, it didn't really seem appropriate for me to continue using olive oil as the example in here. So you could almost think of this as either oil pollution or like clear oil that's dripping on top of some water. And if you have like a very thin veneer of oil, as you do in this thumbnail, well, the oil will actually diffract the light and cause all of these lovely colors that you see here in this thumbnail. Well, aside from the thumbnail, what else do I want to mention about this puzzle before I put it up on the screen? So first off, this is once again a 3-star difficulty rated puzzle. So if you've not tried to solve this series before, I highly recommend that you check out this playlist first. Try and attempt another puzzle in this series first. Just take a look at any of the videos that are slightly shorter in length and give these a go before you come back to this particular puzzle. It's all about parities, odds and evens, as I'll explain in today's rule set. Anything else to say before we crack on? No, let's do that. So, oily water by Blobz, and the following set of rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. That means place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. We have killer cage rules, although not necessarily killer cages because not all the cage totals are given. So digits in cages do not repeat and must sum to the small clue if given. So for example, these two cells, which you can see outlined by the thin dashed line, must sum up to a 9, which is the number in the top left corner. If this was a 2, for example, this would have to be a 7 to make sure that these two cells add up to 9. What else should I mention in here? Right, of course, the oil and water cage rule set. So coming back to this 9 cage, you have 3 options available to you when you're actually filling a cage. So option 1 is it's entirely made up of oil, in which case oil here, which I used as green, must be even digits, and therefore these two cells would be from 2, 4, 6, and 8. That's one option. The second option is a cage is full of water, and water here is defined by blue in my solution, and you can 3 that would have to be made up of odd digits, 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. Now the last option that you have is a mixed cage, where oil has to float up on top, and water has to be on the bottom, and you have to basically use a mixture of odd and even digits, with even digits, or the oil at least, always on top. I know somebody's going to make a clever comment about how oil and water can be emulsified and mixed up. At least in today's puzzle, this is not something that we're going to be considering. Now, here is, continuing this idea of mixing. What you can't have is in the same row a mixture of oil and water. So look at this 17 cage here where they're all on the same level. It's either all blue, it's all water, that's fairly simple. All green, all oil, that's absolutely fine as well. What you can't have is a mix in the same level of both oil and water on the same row. That doesn't work. The other thing that doesn't work is having water float on top of oil. So you can't have something like that in a cage where the odd numbers are on the top, without the 0, and the 2, 4, 6, 8, the even numbers are on the bottom. Any professor in physics or chemistry, I'm sure, will quickly point out that oil is less dense than water, at least the oil we're using for today again, and therefore would float on top of the water. So that's the oil and water rule set. Now, the last one that we have in here is a bit of a twist, and hence the name oily water from Blobz, where it says the 9 letters oily water, so OILYWATENR, map 1 to 1 with the 9 digits 1 through to 9. The solver must deduce which is which. So you can see in here in the grid, the letter O appears twice. I'm sure obviously because it's the digits 1 to 9, it will appear a lot more than that. But you know that these two cells have the same value, and it's a a consistent digit that is from 1 to 9, and it's appearing only once in all of these, because the O you can see in oily water is not appearing more than that. Got 4 letters, 5 letters, all of these are going to be unique digits. So, only thing left to say now is to mention that if you want to clean up this pollution, or at least dive into this particular puzzle, link will be in the description down below. And I'm going to mention something that will probably help me as I solve this. So if you are planning on attempting this, look away now. As I mentioned to the remaining viewers, kind of my initial thinking about how I'm going to tackle this puzzle before I restart my own time. So whenever I look at puzzles from Blobz around oil and water, I can't help but get reminded by the phenomenal series from Florian Wortman of Colorado, where the idea is that Florian was essentially having the XV constraint, and you end up coloring the entire grid, then using some sort of variant to try and essentially figure out some actual digits rather than just letters. So I'm looking at this oily water part and I'm just thinking, that feels like a very sensible approach. I am probably going to color the grid almost entirely, or as much as I possibly can, and then using these and obviously the numbered cages, of which we have quite a few today, to try and figure out what does it all mean. Anyhow, I'm going to restart the clock now and see how I get on. So, cages and coloring. You can take a look at the 15 cage, for example. This clearly needs to have an odd digit. If I make it all even, that's not going to work. That will be an even sum, and therefore there's no way I'm going to hit 15. So this is odd, this is odd. Same thing for a 19 cage, I have to leave at least one odd. 29 cage, I have to have at least one odd. 9 cage, same is true in here. 17 cage, all 3 have to be odd. Remember, they have to be a single color. All 3 being even was never going to work. Same row, the 29 cage, I can't have 6 odd digits, I only have 5 of them. So these 3 have to be even. If I make this odd, that's 2 odds, that's an even sum. 3 evens, that would be an even sum. That breaks the 29. So in fact, we actually have all of these as even digits. And therefore, we actually know that this is a 9. First digit and under mirror, always a cause for celebration for a hard difficulty puzzle. The 9 cage, let's continue. You can see that this has to be an even digit. All of these being odd would make this an even sum. We just learned that the 4 cells, 2, 4, 6, and 8, add up to 20. They do not add up to 16. So at an absolute minimum, I have to include 2 odds. All of these being even is not going to work. Now I'm guessing I can actually use 4 odd digits, so I don't necessarily know if this is even or odd. Let me just think. 1, 3, 5, 7 as a minimum does add up to 16, so it can actually be entirely odd. That would work. I don't necessarily know the answer to that. Anything else that is worthy of looking at? 26 cage, yes, it is actually, because that is a 5-cell cage. I can be pretty confident that I need odd digits in here because I only have 4 even digits. So at an absolute minimum, these 2 are odd. And then I have the option of 3 evens, or actually even just 1 even with 2 odds. That works. What I can't have is 3 odd digits, for example, as such. That would stop. That would break. So there's at least 1 even digit in here. Right, what else? We can kind of do the reverse of what I've been trying to do, which is, you can see that the 12 cage has to have even. 3 odd digits will not work. They're going to add up to an odd number. And unfortunately, the 12, the 8, there are 2 cells that can have 2 odds. 20 cage. I can probably do it either way. I can have all 4 being even. We've demonstrated that works with 2, 4, 6, 8. Fairly sure I can have 4 odd digits. I can have 1, 9, and 3, 7. And that adds up to 20. So probably what I need to start thinking around is looking at each of the boxes, etc. Maybe even using this. So there's an obvious example. The A is odd, and therefore the A down here is odd. Therefore the T has to be odd because they're in the same level, in the same cage. That means the T is odd as well. So we have 3 odd digits already placed, W, A, and T. We need to have 5. And my options are, because I need 2 more odd digits, and the options are, it can't be L. Can't include L, because if I only have just one odd, well, I only need 1 more odd digit from either O, I, E, or R. And it doesn't matter which one I pick. Let's say it's I. Well, its partner is going to be even, and then I've broken it because I have a mixture of oil and water in the same level. Long way of saying L is definitely even, and then I have 2 options. Either O and I are even and E and R are odd, or the other option, which is E and R are odd and O and I are even. And I'm trying to figure out which one it is. So let's think about this for a second. Sorry, T is odd. Let me just make sure that I have selected all the same ones. Yeah, R, E, I, O. These are the ones that are unknown. I'm sort of very tempted to say that this is even. I don't think that's true. Because, one option is ER are odd, in which case I have 5 odds. I need 3 evens. All of these would be even. The other option I have is ER is even. So this is even, this is even, this is even. And I have to pick 2 more odd digits from here, which certainly can include this cell. So that's not the way to go about doing this. So I just want to double check a few things. Right, here's a couple of ideas. These 2 cells, and let's start with the 8 cage, it can see all the even digits. I think the challenge is I just haven't colored them, so you don't necessarily see that. Whether O and I or E and R are even, this cell sees all of them, either in the same row or in the same box. So in fact, these 2 cells, it applies to both of them, have to be odd. Therefore, this has to be odd. That's 3 odds. And these 2 are essentially either even or odd, depending on what these say. Right, we've got 3 odd digits. If E and R are odd, that would be 5 odd digits. These 2 would be even. If this is even, I still need an odd digit, and I'm not too sure where it would be. Come on, Sleuth, you've got this. Yeah, take a look at row 9. If E and R are odd, well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 odd digits. These 2 cells couldn't be odd. The alternative is IO is odd, in which case I already have 5 odd digits, and these 2 are back to being even. Now remember, oil can't be floating, it's going to be underwater, so these 2 are also even. You can see now I have 3 even digits in box 7. That means these 2 cells have to be odd. Can't have a total of 5 even digits in here. We can, I'm sure, continue this thinking. So the options in here are either both of these are odd or both of these are even. They're the same color regardless. Can't have an even number of odd digits, basically. And for the moment, they seem to be both equally possible. Because essentially that would mean all of these are even, which actually breaks. Take a look at this column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that's all odd, I have to make these even to have 4 even digits in box 4. Therefore, this has to be even. Because I'm only allowed one more even in column 3. And could be either of these, it almost doesn't matter, but there's at least one odd in here for sure. 1, 2, 3. Sleuth, come on. You've got 4 evens. All of this is odd. Right, let's just pay attention a bit. All of these are odd because they're in the same cage. That's 5 odd digits. This is even. This is even. This is even. This is odd. I'm sure a few of you were just screaming at your screen saying, come on, Sleuth, wake up. And here I am, indeed, waking up. Pardon me about this. That's 5 odd digits. That's all even now. We need a 4th even in the row. We've done all the evens. All of this has to be odd. This has to be odd. That's 4 even digits already placed. We've got 1, 2, and 3. That has to be the 4th even. These two are clearly odd because we need, odd because we need 5 odds in box 1. We need 5 odds in box 4. Is that correct? Let me just double check this. Yes, I made a mistake. Excuse me. Let me just at least do the sensible bit first. All of these have to be odd, that's for certain. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 evens. That's odd as well. One of these is even, one of these is odd. We'll figure that out later. That's 4 evens. That's got to be an odd. That's 5 odds. That means all of these are even. This is 4 evens now done in row 6. That's got to be odd. That's got to be even to get my 4th. Oil at the bottom, oil all the way. This needs to have an even number of odd digits. So at least this is odd. Otherwise, we're not going to get to an even number sum. Rest of this clearly needs to be even. Same here. This needs to be odd. That's 4 evens. That's odd. And that's even. So that's the grid colored. Right, let's get on with letters for a second. I'm kind of regretting using the 9 now, but I may end up replacing it. So I'm going to do my normal favorite. Hang on, excuse me. Let's try that again. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. No, that's not H. That's H, that's I. A, B, and C, and that's a D. Let's just quickly do the mapping. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think that's H and that's I. You can see that these two are clearly A and B. We already placed C and D. This is C and D, although we actually have C and D to actually disambiguate this for us. That's D, that's C. This is another AB. This is, not sure actually. Take a look at row 9. Where does E go? Well, it's not this cell where there is already an E. That's E. This is H. Here's something. So D is definitely one of these two cells because D is not here. And therefore, this is made up of, well, actually, forget what it's made up for a second. I've got 2 cells that are in common. I've got this 15 cage with E and a D plus a C. Now I have an E and a D. Its partner clearly has to be a C. Can't have E and D and then have a third, sort of like a different digit from C, still make it add up to 15. So that's nonsense. This is C or D. This is therefore A or B. Completing the column, this is C. This is not D, B, or C. That's A. AC means, well, BD here, BD there. A here gives me my B, my A, B, A. These two cells are known, they're CDs. This is a B. Sure, I'm going to be able to do this. Right, A, and it's either AC or D. No Ds. These two cells have to be the same because, you know, it can't, this cell, sorry, let me try to explain this a bit better than what I'm trying to do. These four cells include all the even numbers. So these three are clearly not the cell. They see each other in the same row. These two cells have to be the same, therefore, and the only letter in common between them is a D. That's C, that's D, that's C. Neither of these are C. This is now AD. In here is ABC, except that's not B, that's not A, that's not C. This is another AB, just kind of replicating what's down there. This could be a number of options, so I'm not going to finish this. AD, that's got to be BC. It's, again, a 4 cage of evens. It's got to have all letters. Therefore, this has to be A, D, A, B, C, D. This is B or C, just completing the column. B or C in the row, the same pairs. That means this has to be A, this has to be D. This A gives me B, C, therefore B, C, C, B, and A. And that's all the evens done. Can we do the same with the odds? Probably. So H and I, because of this H, like I said, I'm kind of regretting using that 9. I am going to remove it. We just know whatever letter we're going to place in there is a 9. What else do we need to place in here? In the column, we need F and G. What are these two? You can see H and I, H and I. There is H and I up here. Let me just complete the column again. This is E, F, and G, except this is not E. It's a little bit harder for the odd digits for some reason. GH means these are E, F, I. This is E, F, G. E, F, and I. Well, where does H go in this column? This is the only place for it. This has to be a G. That's not a G. This is E or F, just completing the box. These to complete the column are E, F, or I, with a definite I and a definite G in here. This is from F, G, and I. For some reason, okay, that's not enough. I just don't have enough info to sort of disambiguate some of these things. How am I going to do so? It's kind of a trick I'm needing to figure out. So up here is EF with H and I. And it's essentially this EF. Yeah, tricky. Am I not going to be able to make more progress without thinking about the cage contents? Really feels that way, doesn't it? So H is not here in column 2. H is in one of 2 cells. In fact, H is specifically in this one cell. That's H. Therefore, EFI, this can still be G. Only thing that it can't be is F. This is EGI again. Certainly not as easy as the evens. It's kind of what I'm learning here. Unless I'm just missing something. Entirely possible. H, H, and H. Not a G, and H. So this kind of setup, I'm missing one of the odd letters. And which one is it that I'm missing? Hard to tell, actually. Come on, surely I can do a bit better than this. This sort of cage setup is quite suspicious. Sleuth, that's why you've been struggling. This is a G because I've already placed it. I should have done the letters first. Dear oh dear, Sleuth, come on. Where does G now go in the row? This is the only place for it. This is not a G. Has to have an F in here. This is not an F. In fact, I've just placed it. This is E. This is G. This is E. Neither of these are E's anymore. Neither is this one. They're all FIs. So close. Is that as far as I could take it at this point? So you can see the missing letter from this 4 shape is the G. So essentially this is made up of E, F, H, and I. So the E's have to be in here, one of these 2 cells. Let me just kind of complete the options for a second. I don't know if this is the way to resolve this. No E's in here. This is in general F, H, or I. So we know the 9 is F, H, excuse me, or I. We know that there is, that E is in here. I can't place definitively one of the letters there. If that's H, that would be H. These 2 cells would be the same. That's possible. Yeah, this may end up being as far as I could take it at this point, and I may have to think about numbers. That might be the right answer. How are we doing at the moment? We're at 22 minutes. Okay, let's do that. Let's start thinking about numbers for a second. So whatever this number is, yeah, so take a look at these 2 cages. They share the same 2 letters, C and D. And essentially the difference between 19 and 15 is 4, so we know G is 4 more than E. I also know G is not 9, because otherwise it would have been listed as an option in here, and it isn't. So the maximum G can be is 7. maximum E can be is 3, the minimum E can be is 1, the minimum G can be is 5, because it has to remain 4 apart from E always. So let's just continue this thinking for a second. The G in here, how do I link it? Yeah, I've got this cage to help me link it. So E is 1 or 3. This is 4 more than it. So one option is 1, in which case this would be 6 and 8, because that would leave a remainder of 14. The G would end up being 4 more than 1, that's a 5, so these two would be 6. A would have to be 6 to add up to 12, and then I've broken the puzzle because I just said D and C have to be 6 and 8. So 1 and 5 break the puzzle. The only other option that was there is E is equal to 3, G is equal to 7. And I am going to just start doing this. I am going to plug in some numbers now. So 3, 7, that makes F5 to make the 12th cage work. So F is 5. That makes this 4, 8. It's the only way to get 12 with even digits. Where else can I use this? I've got, so these two have to add up 8. So it really just verifies what I've just stated. Actually, here's something better. 3 and 7, that's already 10. A has to be 2. This, because it's not 4 or 8, that's reserved for D and C. This has to be 6. So that's 5, 10 plus 6, that's 16, that's correct. Now, this is either 4 or 8. If it's 4, I've broken the puzzle because I'd need an H to be a 5 in the same column to make this add up to 9. So the D is 8, the C is 4, the H is 1, and that's looking like all the cages work. 15, 12, 19, 9, 16, 26. This is probably going to help us. So the 7, which was the G, is outside of this cage. If you add up all of the odd digits, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, they add up to 25, minus the 7, because that's not in the cage. That is... I don't think that was helpful at all. I already know all of these. So this is 3, 7, wasn't it? 3, 5. And therefore, I is 9. I might use letters just very briefly just to clean this up now. So this is FH. This is not F or H. This is EI. Therefore, this is F. This is I. I is 9. Yep, that's consistent. F we've already solved for was 5. Yep, that's consistent. EI, that means this is H, just to complete the row. This is not H either. Am I kind of regretting the early swap here? This was 3 and 5, which is E and F. Let's see if I can just clean this up quickly. This H tells me F, H. Nope, can't clean these up. This is not H either. That H is in one of these. It's forced in here. I've lost track what H is. I've already forgotten. It's 1. H is 1. Okay. E and F were 3 and 5. I is 9. That's nonsense. That's I. E and F was 3 or 5, wasn't it? Yes, E was 3, F was 5. Therefore, this is EF to make another 3, 5 to add up to 8. Have I got anything in here to help me? Not really. I can at least replace all the H's. I've placed all the H's, haven't I? So they're 1s, they're 9s, There, 3 5s. May as well just do that. E and I was 3 and 9. F was just a straight up 5. This was 9, which it isn't, or 5. This is F. Kind of regretting I sort of swapped already. 3, 5, 9, 3. This is the remaining. This is a 9. This is, I guess, I again. These are 3 and 7. That 3 gives me an order. That's 3. That's 7. The 20 cage, does it even matter? The 20 cage probably was another clue from Blobz to actually help us resolve this. This was a 5 then. This is a 7. And if I've not made any mistakes, that's a solution for... Oh, hang on. What am I missing? Oh, this F. That's a 5. That's the solution for today's puzzle. Have a heart. Wow, that was hard. I don't know if it would have been easier to use colors rather than letters, is sort of what I'm thinking. Because you couldn't place letters throughout the entire grid with the odds. May have been better to actually be using numbers, as in whatever it was, E was 1 or 3, G was 5 or 7, and just having different colors. That might have been easier than trying to keep a memory map of all of the letters, as you're still looking at a grid that's half letters, half numbers. So that may have helped slightly with the solve. I'm sure many of you seem to use a lot more colors than I do, so I'm actually very curious to see in the comments if anybody else has used letters. Looking forward to reading them. Regardless, I hope that you enjoyed the puzzle and the video, and see you back for the next one. Oh, quick thing I should mention. Right after this will be a recommended video from the channel if you've actually enjoyed this puzzle, so keep watching. Bye-bye for now.